Ms. Edie, you're live.
All right, thank you. We're going to start our virtual finance and purchasing committee meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Alderman Moiseo,
Here.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Here.
Alderman Rivera,
Present.
Alderman Seager, Alderman Newsome.
Present. I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Kirkwood, to approve our minutes from January 4th, 2021 special virtual finance and purchasing committee meeting. Are there any questions to this motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item D, public comment. Clerk Kilkelly, are there any?
Madam Chairwoman, there are no public comments for your committee today.
Great, thank you. Item 2, new business. Item A, motion to authorize the proper city officials to make formal application for a grant requiring the disbursement of reimbursable funds and no local match with the Illinois Fire Marshal for the purpose of firefighting turnout gear. The execution of any grant agreement and or intergovernmental agreement must return to City Council for further authorization and approval. I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Seager. The Illinois Fire Marshal has grant programs available for turnout gear, such as helmets, coats, pants, boots, etc., in order to protect firefighters in the hazardous conditions found in house fires, vehicle fires, hazardous chemical leaks, and other similar situations. If approved, this $26,000 grant would be used to replace gear which is either damaged from use or is set to expire per NFPA standards. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item B, motion to authorize the proper city officials to approve a change order in the amount of $28,565.30, increasing the contract award on June 17, 2019 to Capanella and Sons for bioswale improvements to a total revised amount of $537,347.30. This project utilizes 2020 water and sewer bond funds. I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Kirkwood, second by Alderman Moiseo. After excavation for the planned improvements, existing power poles began to lean along the west alignment of the bioswale. See attached to pictures. After ComEd was notified, the work on the project stopped while ComEd repaired their facilities. Once ComEd had completed their work, the contractor mobilized to the site again, and the scope of the project pivoted to restoring excavated areas without a bioswale on the west side of Seahorse Drive. This change order is necessary to pay for the out of scope work, additional earth backfill and aggregate base material, topsoil, seeded blanket, etc. If this incident would not have happened, the cost of this project would have been within the original contract amount. The delay in issuing a change order was related to disputed cost and resolution. The contractor and the project engineer agreed on the final cost of the work in December 2020, so they brought it forward now. The original project was funded from the 2018 water and sewer bonds. This change order will be funded from the 2020 water and sewer bonds. Are there any questions to this motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo, Alderman Moiseo.
Aye, I'm sorry. Aye, I was muted. Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item C, motion to authorize the proper city officials to approve a contract with Newman Signs, the lowest responsible bidder, in the amount of $50,341.66 for light and sign materials. This project utilizes 2018 general obligation bond funds. I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Rivera. The Public Works Department went out to rebid for lights and sign materials and received 2 responses. Based on the attached bid tabulation, the Public Works Director recommends each respondent be awarded a contract for these items and commodities in which they provided the most favorable prices. Please refer to your attached for details. Are there any questions to this motion? Alderman Rivera.
Are these, is this for like new lights that are going up? Is this for maintenance of the old ones, or just to, if somebody could elaborate a little bit on this?
What this is, Alderman, is basically, it's not lighting at all, it's signage. Because it's under lights and sign materials, but it's the same bond. The bond is lights and sign materials, but we're buying sign materials. That's what this says. Both of
Okay.
these are for signs, posts, everything signage. Okay, that help?
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Are there any more questions? And
Let's see.
item C, are there any more questions? Item D is pretty much the same thing, but item C, any questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Seager.
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item D, motion to authorize the proper city officials to approve a contract with Osborne Associates Incorporated, the lowest responsible bidder, in the amount of $50,403.75 for light and sign material. This project utilizes 2018 general obligation bonds. And this is the other half of the award from item C. Are there any questions to this motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Moiseo.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Alderman Seager.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Motion to authorize proper city officials to make a formal application for a grant requiring the disbursement of reimbursable funds and a local match with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Stormwater Capital Improvement Program, DCEO-STOCIP, in coordination with the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission, LCSMC, for the purpose of Montisano Avenue drainage improvements. The execution of any grant agreement and/or intergovernmental agreement must return to City Council for further authorization and approval. Take a motion by Alderman Rivera. Second by Alderman Moiseo. Lake County Stormwater Management Commission will develop the funding request for the Montisano Avenue draining project that will be submitted to DCEO to support this collaboration countywide program. Should a project receive grant funding from DCEO, SMC will provide technical assistance to local project sponsors, administer the grant, and take the lead in coordinating with DCEO regarding grant requirements, thereby allowing local project sponsors to focus solely on the successful implementation of their projects. The program grant funds are an 85%, 15% split with a maximum grant of 2.5 million. The total value of this project is estimated to be 3.62 million. Therefore, a local matching requirement of 1.12 million, 1.12 million will need to be identified if the grant is awarded and the City Council approves the agreement. And I think this is being brought forward from IEI. Are there any questions to this motion? Alderman Moiseo.
Yeah, after doing a little research and talking, I'm not gonna support this. I don't, we have a million 12 we could use somewhere else, and not for this. So that's just my feeling. I think the water plant needs to be buttoned up more. I think some other things need to be taken care of first, before this. I don't know how bad the flooding is in this area. If it's just a road flooding, then it wouldn't be a high priority to me. If it's 50 basements flooding, then it might be. I don't know. But I just think we're going to need that $1 million for the water plant and maybe some expansion of hopefully being able to get water out to some western communities, hopefully in the near future. So I just don't think it's a priority at this point, unless someone can convince me otherwise. I'm not gonna go for it. Thanks.
Are there any more questions to Alderman Seeger and then Alderman Rivera?
Pat, you're muted.
You're muted, Alderman Seeger.
Could Mr. Hewitt comment on this? Give us a little bit more information on it, please.
Well, I think this is a project that IEI identified, Mr. Kozlowski.
Thank you. The project is basically, it's a project that was developed in 2015, I believe. The original study was performed, and it has come to life with this opportunity where the Stormwater Management Commission is looking at administering grant opportunities for DCEO. It was just kind of good timing that the grant came out, and there was a major relief sewer project proposed at one time. I certainly understand where Alderman Boicio is with this. We did ask if this was going to be a revolving grant, and there's potential that it could come back, but it's not certain.
Right.
So there was we'll call it a phase 1 report that was completed in 2015 that we've met with the Stormwater Management Commission about, this was a good opportunity for the grant, but I certainly understand the need for $1 million.
Right. Alderman Rivera.
Yeah, my question was also going to be to have input from Mike regarding any calls that we receive regarding basements getting flooded in the area. Mark, are you aware of any of that, or?
Sorry, Alderman.
No, if there's any excessive, I know at one point we did have some flooding over there because we bought a house that was flooding over there significantly, but I thought we took care of that issue.
There, I live on Montesano. I live right down the street. There is definitely consistent flooding when it rains. And the street is totally flooded. And I understand what Greg is saying. But getting back to, how many houses, how many basements are actually affected by this?
Do we know?
I would refer to Mr. Hewitt on that one. The report that we have does not indicate, does not quantify the number of residents.
The one that we had the biggest problem with, stormwater management bought for us. We demolished it. She had a problem because her basement, her lower level, had an actual door in it. So every time it rained, it went right through the door and washed her out. But most of the homes are higher. Well, you know that, Alderman. Most of the homes are higher. We basically have road flooding. There hasn't been and the last big storm we had this last year wasn't so bad. It didn't flood the road. It depends on, you get 100-year rains in that. Yes, it does. And it goes under. So, but as far as a lot of basements, we didn't get any complaints and a call for sewer. Like I say, the one lady was really the one that was just over the, every time it rained and got heavy, it would go through our back door. And rather than fix the problem as far as sealing it up and doing, She didn't, so we ended up buying it and we're using it for storage as far as water storage, so.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Also, I had,
Chairman,
excuse me,
Chairman, Treasurer Schwab. Okay.
yes,
What bond money would be used for this?
I
Out of
don't,
what bonds?
I have no idea what bond money. I did have a question for Mr. Kozlowski. Is the max amount is 2.5? Is there a guarantee that that's how much we would actually get?
No, there's no guarantee.
And so if we take this bond and we get significantly less, that means we have to come up with more than 1.12.
Well, we would have to adjust the scope of the project.
I'm kind of feeling exactly like Alderman Moiseo that maybe we can put this off. I know it's a good time for the grant, but it's not a good time for the city of Waukegan, being that we are already in a deficit due to COVID, and we're gonna have to recover from the debt we're already in.
And there's no guarantees regarding, what we're going to get and how much we have to put up.
Right.
Correct. The
Alderman
grant,
Go ahead,
I would-
Alderman Kirkwood. Mr. Kozlowski?
thank you. The schedule for the grant is, the results would be coming in March. So, there is time, and if council doesn't approve it tonight, that's fine. If you do approve it, we can always pull it or not approve it later on.
I would hate to accept and go out for it and then come back and we don't have the money, and then we just, somebody else could use the grant. Alderman Kirkwood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is that, if there's not real concern about the flooding of basements, but anytime we have a flooding of basements over in that area, I think we need to be concerned. I also understand that, money is tight right now, but if it's your basement flooding on a constant basis, and I think Mr. Hewitt stated that unless it's a real large rain, that does not occur. So I think that we need to be very prudent in terms of spending dollars, because enough of us have said that, money is real tight right now. And for us to have to put up matching funds, where would that come from? So I think that we can look at possibly putting this on hold and then seeing what happens with the new administration coming in tomorrow, and gives us some time to see what's going to happen coming from the Fed to the state government. So I think we need to wait on that, because certainly we got a couple months, and certainly President-elect Biden and President Kamala will certainly do some things to help the states, because every state is hurting, and especially the state of Illinois is hurting. So I would agree with Alderman Moiseo but I think we need to bring it back up and look at the possibilities as we see how our federal government is helping the states.
Just one more comment real quick. If Alderman Rivera had been getting a million calls and he came and said, hey, we got to do something. Every time it rains, I got 50 basements flooding. Then I think all of us, because at least in my time in office, that's one of the worst calls you get. Alderman,
Absolutely.
can you come over? And you go over and they got 2 feet of water in their basement. I mean, you're heartbroken. I mean, it's just one of the worst calls you get as an alderman. I think all of us understand that. But if Alderman Rivera's not getting those calls and it's not happening and it's just the road, and we don't know our money situation, and we may be on the hook for $1 million, or the fact that, like Alderman Newsom said, we go out for the grant and we get it and we come back and say, no, we don't want it. That doesn't look good either. So I think everybody has made a good point that we need to just slow on this one and put it on hold and come back and revisit it at a later time. I think that's the best thing to do.
Do we need a motion to, what is it, leave it in committee, or?
Would
I'll
you
make
like
the
to
motion.
table it Okay. Are we tabling it or bringing it back at a date certain? Would you like to bring it back to the
Let's
March date?
table it. Let's table it. That way, it gives us time to bring it back.
If we table it indefinite, then we don't have to worry about putting a date on it. So make a motion to table this indefinite, and then we can just let it sit there until we decide what we're gonna do with it. So I'm sure there's a timetable on the grant. We may want to look and see when that ends, but I think Alderman Rivera's point of tabling it indefinitely is the best move at this time. Well, I'll make that motion, or Alderman Rivera.
And I just wanted to comment, what Alderman Mosio was saying. I don't get a ton of calls. I believe one time we did have heavy rains a year and a half ago. I got one phone call, and that was it. So, the street floods, it's hard to get through, but I don't think a lot of homes are being affected by it.
Okay.
Alderman Florian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify one thing with this. The money would be coming out of bonds rather than out of the general fund. Is that correct?
No, there is
No.
no funding identified for this.
Okay.
This project was not submitted on a grant project sheet or a capital improvement form for the current fiscal year budget. So it is not included in any funding right now whatsoever in the current appropriation. We already have projects identified for the 2020 water sewer bonds. This is not one of them. So there
Okay.
is not currently funding identified. If this were to move forward, it would come out of the water sewer fund. It would not come out of the general fund.
Okay.
Mark, when is the expiration date to apply for this grant?
The date expired. Stormwater Management Commission was giving us some relief on the date because they knew that we needed to hear it in front of council before we could approve anything. So
Then there's
depending on
probably,
what happens here.
I think the date was January the 8th.
Correct.
It was
Correct.
supposed to be
then
submitted.
there would be no reason to table it, just vote it down because it's already expired. So we'll just.
Well,
vote
You
it
read
down.
my mind, Alderman Moiseo.
Yeah.
I'm just
can I
staff,
just
but
can I just say one more thing, please?
Alderman Florian.
I want to make sure, especially Mr. Kozlowski hears this. I do have an area in my ward that consistently gets flooded and basements get flooded. It's where Cashmore and Burr Oak come together. It's a very low area. They should have never built homes in that area, in my opinion. There's a drainage issue with the golf course, which is right behind there. So I do get tons of phone calls anytime we get any kind of significant rain, probably more than 2 or 3 inches. And I have tons of pictures of it if you'd like to see them. So I just want to put my 2 cents in that is definitely an area we should look at to somehow, abate some of that flooding, because it is a big problem over there. There's probably maybe not 50 houses, but I'm going to guess at least a dozen that get affected, maybe 20. Maybe next time I'm out, I'll count them, but there's a cul-de-sac right before it. And then the corner where those 2 streets come together, it's just a mess. So I would definitely want that on your list of spots to look at.
I have a section in my
Thank
ward,
you.
Ridgeland and Pine Street, and I'm sure you're aware of that area as well. And I think we also had the area over in Frog Island that flood. 2017, the water was in people's houses. So, that was a significant amount of rain, something that we haven't had since, which is a blessing. But there are several areas in the city that need some attention when it comes to drainage. And hopefully we can work on some of those areas as well. Take a look at them. And maybe
Madam Chairman, if I may speak.
Yes, Mayor.
As these Deca grants, this is something that came to my attention and I sent out to Mark, and they were begging for projects because they did not come up. And Mark just kind of put this together for this, but there are going to be much more opportunities over the next 3 to 4 years, because I anticipate from a federal level and a state level to for an infrastructure infrastructure package to be put out by the federal government and the state. What we're doing, just so all of you know, we're trying to get our names part of this, to Alderman Florian's point. So they see City of Waukegan. City of Waukegan has projects. City of Waukegan has projects. And I think a lot of these projects are probably going to be very close to that 90% funding, if not 100%. But as long as our name is always being mentioning to come up, then it's there. I hear what you're saying. I agree with all of you, but I can assure you all, there are going to be opportunities with these projects. They're going to be begging communities to come up with it. The great part is we have kind of the phase one of it. What I mean by phase one, we've identified them, we know where they're at. All we have to do is be ready to submit. And we certainly will be going through from a standpoint, making sure that the finance director has, and I will be working with, whether it be Public Works or IEI, to make sure that there is significant financing from a budgeting standpoint. But I do hear exactly what all of you are saying. And thank you for giving us that information, and that will be noted, and be ready for the next one. That's all. Just be ready for the next one.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you. So I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Rivera, second by Alderman Moiseo, to deny.
You could just take a motion and a second to vote on it and then just vote no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not that that's my recommendation. That
That's
would just be the right procedure.
Yeah, we already have a motion, just vote no, correct.
okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Alderman Kirkwood,
No.
Alderman Rivera. Alderman Rivera,
No.
Alderman Seager,
No.
Alderman Moiseo,
No.
Alderman Newsome.
No.
Okay.
All right. Item F, motion to retain Johnson Consulting to provide an economic impact study regarding a potential casino at Fountain Square pursuant to section 2-458 subsection I-4. The professional services waiver to competitive bidding process for a total retainer of $28,500. Take a motion by Alderman Seager, second by Alderman Kirkwood. The C.H. Johnson Consulting proposal is attached to provide an economic impact study related to the intended casino development at Fountain Square. The study will evaluate a potential potential casinos development on employment, tax base, and increased demand for city services. The study should take 4 to 6 weeks to complete and will result in a presentation of the findings. The source of funds to pay for the study are in the Casino Developer Escrow Fund via casino proposal application fees, which has significant funds remaining to cover this cost. Are there any questions to this motion? Alderman Rivera?
It says that we have a waiver for the competitive bidding process. So why didn't we not go out for bids on this?
May I respond, Alderman? Chairman?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Alderman Rivera, the reason that we didn't go out for bids on this is because this is the same consultant that assisted us in the review of the casino proposals. So they're already ahead on understanding what those proposals are all about. They're also already cleared by the casino developers from seeing all of the information. For the public side, that information's been redacted in those proposals, as you recall. So if we brought in another consultant, we would need to clear with the proposers that that consultant review that information that has been redacted publicly. And it would, I'm assuming, cost us more because they'd have a longer lead time to get up to speed on what the proposals are all about.
And I appreciate that information. Thank you, Noel. But as far as the proposal, how do we know it's going to cost us less because they have a head start? I mean, that would come out in the RFP process, I would assume.
Sure, it could. My assumption, just from my experience working with different planning firms, is that when you have somebody that already understands the groundwork, they spend less time on the front end trying to learn and get up to speed, and more time trying to get you what you're looking for. So that typically is less expensive. That's just been my experience. I can't guarantee that that would be the case. You know, we certainly could go out for RFPs. That's an option. But since this consultant is already aware of the proposals, and the other issue there is that when we were seeking a consultant to review the casino proposals, many of the consultants that were recommended to us were affiliated with one of the casino proposers. And so we wouldn't be able to use any of those.
Okay, all right.
So Bob can chime in. I think we went through a list of about 8 of them that were
We did.
affiliated in one way or another.
Yeah, we did. And, you know, there's also you know, you have a limited pool of these people to select from in the first place. And in fact, you know, it wasn't terribly easy to find this particular group in the first instance. And that because this is a rarefied field. They don't build that many casinos, despite what it may seem like to the outside world. But nationally, they don't build very many of these in the course of a year. So you have a limited number of people with the necessary expertise.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the explanation. I would just like to see, again, a little bit more of us going out for RFPs on stuff like this. And again, just trying to do business with other people. And I understand it's good when someone knows the community and knows, you know, how the city functions, but then that could also be a negative. You know, I would just like a disinterested third party.
Are there, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for the explanations, though.
No problem. Are there any more questions? Alderman Florian?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I didn't make any secret of the fact that I was not impressed with the study they did for us, analyzing the casino proposals. I think Ms. Smigelski, Ms. Kirscher-Lepper, and myself probably could have done a better job than they did. It was basically just a mathematical formula that they came up with in the end. So I'm not real excited to see this particular company come before us again, frankly. And while reading the contract they presented, under the contractual conditions, it says estimates and analysis presented in our report will be based on economic trends, market assumptions, and financial data that are subject to variation. Johnson Consulting will use sources that it deems reliable, but will not guarantee their accuracy. That seems a little crazy to me. I don't know if that's just a standard thing they put in a contract, but if we're going to spend $28,500 trying to get information and they're not going to guarantee the accuracy, that seems a little crazy to me.
I think you'll find that that is in the substantial disclaimer that you'll see in all financial services contracts, particularly under environments where market conditions are changing somewhat unpredictably. You know, while we have some degree of growth over the last year, you see a lot of people that are going down while the richer folks are going up. That's an unstable circumstance on its face. We have an election that really contested that hopefully we'll see the end of tomorrow. You also have COVID and things like that. Those inject financial uncertainty into any proposal. And I think that people that are engaged in the business of making projections will always hedge to a degree to say, this is based upon the best information we have available at the moment, but we can't predict that there will be another outbreak of another pandemic or a bombing of the World Trade Center for that matter. And that may have major impact on our financial projections, and we can't guarantee that what we're saying is 100% accurate. When you go to buy a stock, you know, the first thing that you find when you start filling out the form at Morgan Stanley or Chase, first thing you're going to see is that past performance does not necessarily guarantee future results. And I think this is the fundamental equivalent of that.
Chairman?
Alderman Moiseo?
Yeah, I get doing this if it's going to help convince people. But remember, I want you to keep in mind, this is a state law. The state has decided they're putting a casino in Waukegan. I guarantee you, if we end up screwing this up and not wanting it, it will go in Park City. They won't do any economic study. And any economic study that we got, we will bear the problems or the perceived problems of the casino with no money to help pay for it. Just remember that. The state has decided that they're putting a casino in Northern Illinois. They picked us. If it doesn't happen here, it will go in Northern Illinois. And I guarantee you, the mayor of Park City is licking his chops. He would love to steal it from us and put it in Park City and get all the money and give us nothing. And he's not going to care about excessive city services because he doesn't have any city services to contribute. So I understand that we need some people want this economic study, which is fine with me. I don't have any problem with it. But the state, our big brother, the people we answer to, has decided this. They've already decided it. It's going in Northern Illinois. They're not gonna pull it away. Not when a casino operator is willing to pay the casino. I hate to beat this drum, but remember, the casino license from the state of Illinois is $300 million. They're just not gonna let that disappear. That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Not when the state needs money yesterday. So, I mean, if we need this to help convince people or to show some evidence of something, either way, it is what it is. But just remember, keep that in mind as we go forward. Thank you.
Alderman Rivera?
I'm a little confused. We're not voting on whether we want the casino or not.
It's for a study.
We're just voting on a study.
Right. Whether you get a study or not. He's saying whether you get a study or not.
Okay.
The state has already approved a license in Northern Illinois. So
No, and that's pretty clear.
Right. Whether we do a study with Johnson or
whomever,
it's someone else. So
yeah, that's already been decided. I was just a little confused with that last comment. Thank you.
So are there any other questions to this motion? We had a motion by Alderman Seeger, second by Alderman Kirkwood. Roll call, please.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Alderman Seeger.
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye. Motion carried. Item G, motion to approve a resolution to formally adopt policy governing the city's treatment of accounts receivable bad debt in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. Motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Seeger. And we discussed this at length at the last council meeting. Are there any questions to this motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Seeger.
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item H, motion to authorize an ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $15,500,000 general obligation bond series 2021A and 32 $32,500,000 taxable general obligation bond series 2021B, and for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds for the purposes of refinancing a developer note issued to Bridge McGraw Land LLC. Going to take a motion by Alderman Seager, second by Alderman Kirkwood. We discussed this at length at the last council meeting. Are there any questions needed to be answered? I can have Mrs. Smagelski answer them before we vote on this. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item 3, reports and communications. Mrs. Smagelski, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So in your packet, we have our usual reports, our water consumption summary for the month of December. We had 1.1 million in invoices generated. Again, our consumption is not necessarily down. We do see a little bit when the pandemic first started. Consumption did go down in things like hotels and some commercial properties, but we are continuing to see consumption. What we are seeing is a lag in payment of bills. So that is something that we are keeping an eye on. We also included in your packet business and rental license applications for the month. We are seeing a steady stream of business applications, so that's a good sign. So those are in your packet as well. We include the video gaming report. When I checked the gaming website last week on Friday, the report wasn't yet available for the month of December. So we will download that and include that in next month's packet. We download that from the Illinois Gaming Board every month. We do include a report on the push tax. Again, we are receiving most of the owners of the video gaming terminals are submitting in a return. They are submitting that under protest and they are not remitting any payment. And as you're aware, that is currently under litigation. And then we've also included the food and beverage tax and hotel tax returns under their reports, under executive content because they are exempt from public reporting. If there's any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer those either at the meeting here or at another time. Special events, we did not have any special event applications in the month, so we didn't include a report. Our stabilization fund is rather unchanged at this point. We still are above our restricted amount that's set by statute. And the budget to actual report, we were not able to get that done in time. The last payroll of the calendar year was processed last week, and it was all hands on deck to get that pay period 1 completed with all the updated W-4s and changes with tax tables and whatnot. So we will have the December budget to actual and the January budget to actual in next month's report. I will email it to all the aldermen, however, as soon as it's done in advance. But just to make sure that it's also publicly available, we'll upload it to the next finance purchasing committee. And that's it for the finance department reports. We do have the Waukegan Public Library did ask to make a presentation on the CARES funding that they received. There is a related supplemental appropriation on council agenda tonight. So I don't know if she's still on. Someone from the libraries. Oh, Gail Graves, I believe is on.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you and discuss the CARES Act grant that the Waukegan Public Library was the fiscal agent for. I wanted to give you just a brief background on how that came to be, what our role was, and what the grant outcome was. As you know, the CARES Act completed on December 31 of 2020. So I'm going to share a quick presentation as I go along. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, all right. All right. So back in May 2020, many of you are very much aware of how COVID-19 was affecting our local communities here in Lake County. The Lake County Health Department gave us data that was saying at that time, for every one Caucasian resident in Lake County, there were 4 African Americans that had contracted COVID-19 and 9 Latinos. Oh, this happened to me before. Okay. So at that point in time, the Lake County Health Department really wanted to intensify its efforts to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. And one of the things that came first and foremost to mind was the idea that we would mitigate the spread by creating some very targeted efforts to reach Lake County's communities of color. I'm going to stop for 1 second. For some reason, you are seeing the notes. Let's see if we can do a little better here. It's because I have 2 monitors. Nope, it's not going to act right. So let's see. So at that time, the Lake County Health Department decided that it wanted to really push public health efforts down into the community. And to that end, 2 groups were formed, 2 community-based groups, the African American Community Partnership Group and the Association Comunitaria Latina. And what they did at that point in time was they asked for community members to be appointed to be co-chairs along with the co-chair from the Lake County Health Department. So at that point in time, I became the co-chair along with Demetrius Willis, and we referred to the African American Community Partnership Group as the AACPG, and Dulce Ortiz from Mano a Mano and Edna Popoulos are the co-chairs for the ACL. And that is the group that is focusing on the health disparities and needs in the Latino community. So with these 2 groups, the whole concept is to do a collaboration of community-based partners throughout Lake County. So we have over 50 organizations. So the 2 groups function separately, but when it came to funding, we functioned together. So each group is looking and targeting at the hardest to reach in the prospective African American and Latino communities. We have members from communities of faith, our healthcare providers, such as Condell Advocate, Lake Forest Northwestern, Vista, as well as individuals that are part of both of these groups. When we came together and we identified what are some strategies that we could start with to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 here in Lake County, it was the distribution of PPE equipment and the development of education and resources that were culturally relevant and that we could really get into the community, as well as advocacy around the disparities in healthcare. So once we got started, we quickly realized, well, you probably need a little bit of money to get this done. And so the role of the health department, while the 2 groups are independent groups, they are community-based, but they're not nonprofits. The health department helped us to look for and sort of point us in the direction of potential funding opportunities. But since the 2 groups are not a 501(c)(3), they needed a fiscal agent. And so the library was identified because of its reputable standing in the community, its community focus, its administrative capacity, and the fact that they have a grant administrator, which happens to be me. So at that time, we pursued and we were awarded through the Lake County, the CARES Act Community Prevention Funds for $1 million, as well as a grant through the Lake County Community Foundation's Emergency COVID Funds. $50,000 came to the AACPG and $40,000 went to the ACL. In terms of fiscal management or fiscal agency, the library and myself took on the $1,050,000. So what was the library's role and my role? Budget management, to create and execute a budget to spend $1 million. I'll repeat myself that the grant ended in December of 2020. We had less than 6 months to do all the work that we did with this grant. Purchase approval, warehousing, vendor coordination, AP processing, and coordinating with the county for their voucher process. So as we were pursuing any development of PPE kits, we worked with a local vendor who gave his time freely to us. You will hear more about the Leva Foundation at another date, but they agreed to source and get materials to build these PPE kits and not charge us any money. The Leva Foundation is associated with the Leva Food Works, which does, it's a huge processing and they make cookies. They have 2 plants, one in Chicago and one out in Buffalo Grove. So they use their facilities and their manpower because during COVID, they weren't doing their normal load and they happily agreed to support us in the PPE production. So in the 5 to 6 month time frame with this $1 million, what were we able to accomplish? We were able to develop and distribute 80,000 PPE kits. These are individual kits with 10 reusable masks, 10 disposable masks, 2 reusable masks, and 1 16-ounce bottle of sanitizer. And we were able to source as much as possible locally. The sanitizer actually came from 28 Mile Vodka, the distillery, who then turned around and started making sanitizer. And back at that point, there were a number of sanitizers that were being recalled because they had harmful ingredients in them. And so we were fortunate to be able to work with a local vendor who said, you'll never have to worry about recall. We will not hurt your community, in collaborating and working with you. So the kits were actually, it took from September to late November to get the kits, this thing sourced, developed, and put together. So they arrived in early December, and in December, we started distributing these kits. Because we are a community-based group with about 50 organizations, we were able to work collaboratively with other organizations, with food pantries and drive-through events, giveaway events. For people like Catholic Charities and Catholic County, as they're meeting with their clients and they're talking about, do you need help with your rent? We can also provide you with a PPE kit. The idea for both groups is to work collaboratively and strengthen organizations that already exist, but while making sure that we're using our culturally targeted messaging and that we are reaching the hard to reach in our communities. We did identify 10 communities throughout Lake County that are most heavily populated with Black and Brown families, going from Highwood all the way out up to Zion, over to Antioch, down to Mundelein is where we really concentrated our efforts. And so the ACL would then obviously do more kits in Waukegan and out west, while the AACPG, we did more of our kits in the distribution in North Chicago, Waukegan, and Zion. But again, making sure that we worked collaboratively with communities of faith and organizations and to reach those that were the most difficult to reach, in particular, our seniors. So the PPE kits was about $800,000 of the $1 million, which actually comes down to $10 per kit, which when you think about the sourcing, the development, many of these vendors shipped and charged us minimal freight, no freight. so that we could really maximize our CARES Act dollars. We did culturally targeted marketing campaigns with a heavy social media presence, but also realizing not everybody's on social media. So we did print and radio. We did pace bus campaigns and a mask design campaign. We have ongoing virtual educational workshops. Some of you are aware that the Waukegan Public Library, we have our functional health literacy program where we do education, health and education, disease-specific workshops. In the old days in person and now virtually. So we were able to capitalize on that and continue to do workshops, helping people understand the impact of COVID and how to prevent the spread of COVID. And to really deal with some of the myths and cultural misconceptions around COVID. We've done panels and we're getting ready to do some open table discussions because now as we move forward, we're really supporting getting out and increasing awareness and education around the vaccine. So the remaining $200,000 went towards the media campaigns, the workshops, the panels, and we were able to contract program managers. Each of us all has a full-time job in addition to working and doing this work. And they did allow us to have a grant specialist because we needed to be very careful. As the library, we kept our spending separate. We had a separate person tracking that reported into me, but tracking all of our expenses to make sure that when we got to the point of audit, it would be very, very clean. Happy to announce that we spent every penny of the $1 million in a very short time. And we reached our goals because 90% of those kits were out in the community before the end of the year. And there are a number of events that are going on in the next week or so. People are back doing events and the remainder of the kits will be out very quickly. Just wanted you to see sort of what did it look like. Surprisingly enough and unexpectedly, the Waukegan Public Library became one of the warehouse locations, and we held 20,000 kits in the garage at the library. And this is actually what the kits look like, reusable bag with all the materials, including educational materials, how to wear your mask, why you want to wear the mask, how to keep it clean, and the information on 211 Lake County. We had, as I said, numerous distribution events. And one of the things that was really interesting is in the Latino community, having drive-through events was very effective. Cars 100 deep would be lined up and we just hand the kids out in the windows. Not so effective in the African-American community. And so literally we went to shopping centers and we camped out in parking lots and talked to people and handed out kits. Because you go where the people are. This is just an example of some of the events that we had. Many of you know Dr. Roberson. She did a Facebook Live event on the stresses of COVID and the impact on the community and how it might drive people to relapse and what they could do about it, as well as Dr. Ziegler, who did a wonderful presentation on COVID and stress and depression in the Black community. This is an example on the right side of a mask giveaway. One of our churches here in Waukegan, twice this past year, including in December, they were outside on the corners of Lewis and 14, handing out kits and talking to people about COVID-19 and making that transition to starting to talk about the vaccine. In the beginning, we had over 50,000 masks donated by Haynes, and this was in the September timeframe. And we actually hand put together 5,000 kits and distributed those. And that's what it looks like at the Puerto Rican Society, which really made us understand why we needed someone to do it for us, because it was very difficult just to put together the 5,000. What you'll be seeing now is both groups are transitioning again to start working on being community health ambassadors, points of reference and information and navigators, helping these community members connect with good information to make decisions around whether or not they want to have the vaccine and then how to do it. ACL did have a campaign where they did mask design, and this is an 8th grader who won. And if you speak Spanish, the 3 W's in Spanish are the 3 M's. So the M was for wash your hand, and the M for wear your mask, and the M for stay 6 feet apart. And he actually won their campaign, and they did 5,000 masks, extra just regular mask with that logo on it, just championing someone in our community. And on the left is an example of one of our Zoom meetings in Spanish, where we were engaging the community around understanding how to get medical attention. And I'll close out with one of my favorites. We did a PACE bus campaign. PACE was so excited about this opportunity. And as they said to me, it's created quite a buzz. And so we had racked PACE buses that went the routes from North Chicago to Zion, as well as bus shelters, the one on Sheridan and the one in Fountain Square, that had, messaging around mask up, you matter, protect yourself, and protect your family. So they should be up for about another week. We are already in the process of applying for more funding, nowhere near $1 million, where we'll be able to continue over the next few months, again, focusing on the vaccine. That's how the $1 million came to be, and that's what happened with it. Are there any questions?
All right, no questions. Thank you so much.
Just a comment.
Alderman Rivera.
Yes, Gail, thank you so much for all the work that you do. I mean, the presentation was tremendous, and all the information that you gave was so relevant to what's going on within our specific community. And so again, thank you so much for all that you and your teams do.
You're welcome. Thank you. We thank you for the opportunity to work so closely with our community members. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you as well. Thank you so much. And thanks for coming to share that information with us. Very detailed, and let us know exactly what's happening. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening.
Are there any more questions? Being none, I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Seeger, to adjourn the Finance Committee meeting at 6:17 p.m. Roll call, please.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seeger,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. We are adjourned.